All right, we are live. Hey everyone, Retire on Dividends here. I am here with not only Max Convexity, happy camper, but none other than Chris Mullen, portfolio manager of YieldMax. He does a lot with YMAX fund, but I'll let him introduce himself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, my name is Chris Mullen. I'm head of derivative trading at Tidal Financial. I'm the portfolio manager for YMAX and YMAG.
Okay, so thank you for doing this interview.
Absolutely.
So far, so good. It's been a good time. So what are your thoughts of, I guess, I'll say, the popularity of YMAX? Well, do you handle YMAG as well?
Yeah, so
Okay.
YMAX and YMAG, they're kind of partners. They rebalance at the same time. They have a lot of the same underlying. I think it's a great product to have. Instead of trying to pick individually, how do I want to invest my assets? Do I want to do it all in a specific name? You get the whole sleeve of them. And I think that works really well if you're an investor who, instead of, picking individual, like, I don't know if NVDY is going to go off or Tesla or what the income will be, I get a portion of all of it. And I think that makes it really easy for income.
And do you feel like, well, the rebalancing, is it monthly or is it more frequently?
So both funds are actively managed, so we do have some control over it, but it does target a monthly rebalance.
Okay. So do you feel like what that does is it takes advantage of, say, the capital gains of NVIDIA, for example, right? Because you're selling some off at a high and then you're buying maybe at the low because something else would have dipped, right?
Mm-hmm.
To cover for that. Do you think that's been working out?
I think so far it's worked pretty well. We've seen pretty good, consistent dividend returns for the funds. If you look, I think at per NAV level or per share level, I think it's been around 75 cents for each one. I think that's been pretty consistent, which has been great.
Yeah. That
you've been able to kind of understand and project as to what you think the dividend amount will be each month. So I think that's worked out pretty well.
Okay. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So we call it high yield tourism when people try to get in and out of it. You know what that is. You're acquainted with it. Okay, well, so the high yield tourism it's particularly bad in the YMAX and YMAG universe because that's my theory. I don't own those funds. I'm more of a defined guy. Anyway, that's another story. But it's more pronounced in that community because they announce their dividends first, right? Mm-hmm. And then you pay a week later or something. Yeah. And so people can, they try to figure out what it is and jump in and jump out. Is there any way you guys can prevent that, or do you have a best practice for that, or what do you think?
That's a great question. I don't know the best answer to that. I think the way it's set up right now is essentially, we target a rebalance after the pay date for YMAX and YMAG. Again, it's targeted. It's not set in stone. It's TBD. And we do that because it also helps from an accounting perspective, make sure everything is set up correctly and processes correctly. So from a fund administration side, we receive all of the dividends from all the underlying. I can't recall what the exact date is, but I think it's in the first week of every month for all the underlying. And then the YMAX, YMAG makes its distribution about 2 weeks later, a week and a half later. I think that works out pretty well. I guess I don't have a great answer for your question, but I would say that the current structure, I think, works very well from an ETF perspective, at least.
Hey, this isn't my question. One of my subscribers wanted me to ask Jay, but I'll ask you. Have you guys ever considered a company-sponsored DRIP? Where like some of the other funds do?
Yeah. I would push that one back on Jay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one.
Like what, Cornerstone?
Similar to Cornerstone, where you get a DRIP and it's automatic, and maybe you get a little better price, or usually there's some enhancement to do that or inducement to do that. I don't know. I was just wondering if they were considering it.
Okay.
Yeah, but just like Cornerstone, exactly.
All right. Question on I think I did ask this for Jay. So we have the short funds, right?
Yeah.
Crash. We have Fiat and Rotten and a whole bunch of others possibly coming out. How soon or how many funds would it take to be available for you to create a fund of funds, and what would you call it?
That's a good one.
I don't want to put a name on it because there's a couple of good possible takers out there.
I don't want to steal it. Right?
I think everybody can be pretty creative with those ideas. I don't know how many it would be. I think YMAG is probably a good indicator. We've got 7 in YMAG. I think it's a pretty good number. I think you would want to have at least 5, but I think it kind of depends on what we come out with and the activity and volume. And if there's a significant volume right off the bat, and significant activity, I think we'd look to put something together like that. But There is no set in stone number. So I would think 5 to 7 would be a good target.
Okay. Would you make a different payment date? Or do you think you would stick it with the same? Because that is a big thing. I don't know if you know this, but people like getting paid every other week. So so far you guys have like 2 of the weeks covered in the month, but there's those 2 other weeks, right?
That's a great
That
idea.
you guys can fill the gap and make everyone happy.
I will send that to product development. That's a great idea. I don't know. The thought of I guess the short fund to fund is still kind of being discussed and created. So, but that's a great idea. We'll.
I'm obsessed with the short fund to fund ideas.
It's fun.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. It'll be great.
Yeah, definitely different. Happy camper?
All right. So I have several questions,
Okay.
but let's start with this one.
Okay.
So back when I was doing the trades, I go over the trades and holdings for all the YieldMax ETFs, and I noticed there were no trades ever listed for YMAX and YMAG. And then when I reached out to Jay, of course, he said he didn't manage them, or I guess he reached out to you possibly to how that works. And he said, and I haven't researched this because I just haven't had time, but his response was something about how y'all do stuff, but basically a difference between in-kind versus a cash create and all that. Can you maybe just put, give us some information on that?
Yeah, so we don't announce the trades for YMAX and YMAG. It's just not something that we've ever done on a Tidal perspective. However, there's also never been really any trading in YMAX or YMAG outside of a rebalance, and that's because all of the creates are done in kind. Essentially, the market makers, the liquidity providers have excess amount of inventory, and they would rather trade that inventory in for the YMAX or YMAG units. So the whoever's creating the shares is coming to us and saying, hey, we'd like YMAX, YMAG units. We want, say 50,000 shares worth. We're going to deliver you the underlying in exchange for it. And so that's essentially been how YMAX and YMAG has increased its position, is you have so many shares coming in for the units that are being created. It's a very efficient process.
There's a tax advantage to that also, right?
There is. For a redemption, all of the gains that are passed out will essentially not be realized because they're being passed out that way.
Okay.
Somebody else is realizing, not us.
Continue. You have
Continue,
a
Corey.
Well, it looks like I only have one left, maybe, unless the other one's hidden. But so in the prospectus, it talks about tax, tax loss harvesting or tax harvesting. But I assume if y'all do that, because I haven't seen it happen yet, that it will be towards the end of the year. Would that be?
More often than not, for tax loss harvesting, you want to do it before excise date or before tax year end. We're always, every time we rebalance, we look for opportunities to harvest losses. We try and look at positions that are, have significant losses over the month. There haven't really been any that we have deemed worthwhile to do. We're always evaluating and relooking at the positions and seeing where we could take advantage of some losses to harvest, but we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I just saw a question. I just completely forgot it. Give me a second.
Well, I have a question for you. So does Tidal have an office in Milwaukee? You mentioned you were out in Milwaukee.
They do. So Tidal's main headquarters are in Milwaukee. We also have an office in Chicago, Detroit. We're a fully remote staff, so we've got offices everywhere.
I thought you guys were from Florida for some reason.
We have a number of employees from Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just always got a Florida vibe from you guys, but you're actually Milwaukee, Chicago.
We're actually Milwaukee, Chicago, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, that just came to my mind. What is the exact reason that you wait for a covered call fund to actually make a payment before you add it into the fund? Is there a reasoning behind it? Is it because of the inconsistency, because it may launch for, say, a month and a half, so the payment may be off cycle, or is there an actual reason or behind that, or?
I think it's to validate that everything's working the way it's supposed to. Make sure that it's making the payment correctly, just give it a little time to ensure that the product is, following its investment policy before you add something else. I think it's just kind of best practice to give it a little time, and then as soon as you're ready,
Complete the cycle, prove yourself, then you can join the YMAX team.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. Always wondered that. So did you see, I think Max covered this kind of, but did you see how many people join from when the covered call funds pay, right? Obviously that payment, it goes to YMAX, right?
Yeah.
And it sits there, and that's what's going to get paid out. Do you see how many people jump in and day out from that date up until the declaration?
It's hard
to watch that.
It's hard because YMAX and YMAG really have not had many redeems. So all we see is inflows. We don't really see many outflows. And it has a lot to do with, even if people are selling, there's usually someone to pick up that inventory right away. So we really don't see much of a handoff as much as you think.
Mhm.
We do see a spike after, before the payment date to pick up some of that. And it's actually been interesting is we've done a couple analysis where, the payments are all made from the underlying to YMAX. Sitting there cash, you're essentially, if YMAX distributed the day after all those payments were received, this much would go in. People jump in and that number gets diluted a little bit or smaller across the board. And so that's something that's been interesting to watch too. We've had a number of questions come in and say, okay, we thought, we would get this payout based on this at this date. And it turns out it's a little less because of everybody jumping in. So it's been interesting to watch.
Is there a strategy to prevent that? I mean, the tourism, that's what I was trying to get at. I don't know if there is, but
I don't know if there is right now.
Yeah, I know.
because it doesn't even seem fair that if I have my money at the first of the month,
Mhm.
so then the fund is using my money to sell covered calls, and then at the end of the month, so I feel I've earned the covered call income, so I've had it there the whole month, and somebody comes in the last day and buys it and dilutes my share. It doesn't seem fair. But I don't know if there's a way to prevent it.
I said this in my J interview, and here's if I was you guys, this is how I answer it, right? So if I own YMAX in advance, right? Those covered call ETFs, obviously, are in there, right? So they're making the premium. Their price is essentially going up because they're making the premium. You would have bought before that happened. So your cost basis is X, right? It's going up, it's building up, and then the payment comes, right? So technically, like this last one, say you earned 83 cents. So you saw that appreciation, plus or minus, of course. But then more people added into the fund, but you're only getting paid out 73 cents. But meanwhile, you had 83 cents capital appreciation. So essentially, you're still being rewarded, right? Just not in a dividend, right? Not in a distribution.
That's a good point.
So that's one way I look at it. So because a lot of people feel negatively about it, but you have to look at it that direction, right? Assuming obviously they are making the premium and these covered call ETFs are showing that, in their net. So I look at it as, all right, don't worry. You would have gotten 83 cents, of course, but now you're getting 73, but you keep 10 in the capital, right?
The NAV, yeah.
NAV reserve,
NAV
right?
reserve.
So that's, I don't know. I told Jay that too. He kind of, for the most part, doesn't disagree with me. So I don't know. I don't know if you have a comment on it. But.
No, that was a better answer than I could give. So it was
And
great.
I know you asked,
Yes.
what could we do to prevent that, right?
Well, it'd be nice.
So I remember when I asked Jay before, and he said the reason that it's not at the same timeline because it has to be settled and everything to get that cash back. Honestly, though, if the cash is already, it's going to have cash in its account. It's never at zero, right?
Yeah.
There's possibly enough to pay it from what's in there until the other settles anyway. So to me, I still think that if we could move that back to those dates, I don't think it would be an issue.
Don't options settle in one day now?
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, might have to wait a day maybe for it to settle. But I mean, theoretically, on any option trade, whoever it is, the fund or me, should have their money the next day. So, but maybe maybe I didn't understand that. But
Yeah. And then the other thing, that's why I do the YMAX project videos to show if you would have held this underlying here, this is how, and then do we analyze, okay, how many of the outstanding shares go up and watch that distribution number go down and down. So yeah, we do a lot of analytical stuff.
we probably
like that.
overanalyze it. But I mean, to be honest, but there's a niche for it. There's people that watch my station and your station that like like spreadsheets and they like to hear. I make up all these crazy metrics. I mean, to try to compare the funds in an apples to apples way. I made something called True Yield where I look at the fund and I try to back out what the fund would actually pay if the price didn't go way up or if the price didn't go way down. As you know, when the price goes up, covered calls monetize some of that, and some of that even gets paid in the dividend, I think. But when it goes way down, of course, the NAV gets speed up.
Yeah.
But if you just factor all that out, so you can make an apples to apples comparison, and I put numbers on these funds, and I think I put I forget what it was on YMAX, 12% or something, 20% or something. It was a good one. It was one of the higher true yield numbers. But like for instance, on some of these funds that paid 50 or 60%, their true yield was only coming out to 8%, or 8 or 10%, which is still pretty good. I still think that's great. That's better than bonds.
Yeah.
That's better than other fixed income assets. 8 to 12% is great. You could also get, like you said, you used to work for Global X. They have a product
Mhm.
that pays 8 to 12%.
Yeah.
A fixed income product. So does JP Morgan. So do a lot of companies.
True. I want to give you a chance to talk about Tidal, what they do. What else
Yeah.
are they involved with?
So Tidal is a white label ETF platform. We essentially give access to clients to grow their ETFs in our platform. So we have products with a number of different clients. Obviously, YieldMax is the Tidal brand. We partner with Zega to produce all these products. We have a number of other products in futures, equity, fixed income, international names. Like it's a quickly growing ETF platform. We've got about 150 products right now and growing. It's a great way to foster the ETF growth within the community. So it's great.
Do y'all have brick shares also, or is that somebody else?
It's somebody else.
Okay.
Biden, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
What is it?
Biden.
Biden.
Never even heard of it. So
Yeah. I read AIPI prospectus the other day.
It seems like Jay and you guys have about half of the sub-advisor market, or Jay has about half of the sub-advisor market cornered. It seems like almost every fund. And it's not only YieldMax. I mean, he's
Yeah,
sub-advisors
there's some for the others.
for SoFi, for
Yeah.
Defiance, for lots of them.
So we partnered with Jay and through Tidal, we've come out with all these products. So
Yeah.
it's been great.
Any questions for us or the community? And they can respond.
I have another question.
Oh,
when
you have
we're
another
done.
question? Okay.
It came up, well, I thought about it while you were talking.
All right.
So since you're over that, who actually comes up with the distribution amount for each month? Do y'all do that?
We essentially
Does it
take the
say
amount. So I guess it depends. Sorry, I cut you off
No,
there.
you're fine.
I can answer that. Come on.
For the underlying, it's I believe the amount of cash raised or the premium generated and it's distributed. And I believe that's the same thought process for YMAG and YMAG too. So I don't physically come up with it. We have a fund administration team
Okay.
in Milwaukee that handles it and takes care of all that and makes my life a lot easier.
All right. Yeah, so I didn't know if you had any questions for us or community in general.
Or anything you just want to tell us. That
Yeah.
we didn't think to ask.
Yeah.
I guess where do you guys see this stuff going in the future? Like obviously you guys are fans of it or very interested and that's why we're talking today, but like what do you see for this in the future?
Well, I mean, I can tell you now YMAX is a big hit, right?
Yeah.
So YMAG is not far behind, obviously, but YMAX is it. Like the performance has been pretty unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Because the NAV, people, they buy into these high yield funds and they expect everything.
Yeah.
They want 60% yield and they
And
want
capital.
no capital decay, right? And so
Yeah.
it's so, but when they get 40% yield, 35 to 40% yield, and the NAV is staying where it's at, they are happy people, right?
Yeah.
Of course, things could change and then you'll hear it, right? But so far I can tell you, I'm impressed. I don't care about that extra 0.2%, expense ratio. I feel like it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Because the rebalancing is good, I think, because like I said, it sells the ones we'll say at the high, or at least up. So you're getting some appreciation, and then you're buying at the others at the low, and it rebalances itself. And as you buy into more funds, I see this even more powerful, right?
Yeah.
Right now it's crypto heavy, so which is kind of scary in a way, and crypto's kind of jumping up. So, but once you add more, I saw you added like Airbnb's coming, for example.
Tuesday.
Snow, which
Snow got added, yeah.
Snow got added.
Yeah.
I don't know about Snow. I know they're the company uses them, but I don't know much about them.
It's good.
But
It's a good song.
as you add more that are, we'll say, less volatile or we'll consider safer but volatile.
Yeah.
Right? I think the fund, it's going to do very well.
Let me present an opposite view. Okay, so let's say interest rates go back down. Let's say we enter a multi-year bull market, similar to like 2011 through 2020.
Yeah.
And we get a serious compression in rates like we got in 17, 18, and 19, and volatility or compression and volatility. Rates will go down too. So these funds that hold most of the assets in treasuries and are doing synthetics and selling calls against it, in my opinion, it'll be a little less attractive because treasuries won't pay anything.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons these have taken off is because treasuries are paying 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
So you can give yourself for 3, 4, you can give yourself a nice kicker and sell covered calls. But I just wonder when the interest rates go back to zero, volatility gets compressed, if these will be as attractive. I don't think they will, but I'd like to hear your comment on it.
Yeah. agree with you on that thought process. I have no idea, but I agree with you. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if a good answer for
You
you.
don't think the funds will be as attractive when interest rates go down?
Well, because they're using the T-bills as a dividend, and it's gonna make
Yeah.
3 or 4% less than they make now.
A year?
No, I'm
yeah.
not saying, a year. I just say, but maybe they'll adapt. This is more of a J question. Maybe they'll adapt and just go with the underlines when interest rates are zero instead of using synthetics and keeping a book of T-bills on their book. They'll just go with the actual stock and sell. I'm not saying selling calls won't work, but you guys realize that volatility goes with interest rates. VIX goes down with interest rates. When interest rates go to zero and get compressed, the VIX and the volatility in the market is telling you that. So not only that, when it goes to zero, the covered calls won't bring in as much, and you won't be able to get 3 or 4% pretty much free money automatically.
Yeah.
So that's my only concern. Or it's not a concern. I just think it might go in and out of phases. But if this phase we're in right now, where we have high volatility or high interest rates, is a perfect storm for this type of fund.
Yeah.
So I see it going on as long as this goes on.
Yeah. To me, low volatility is the biggest danger to these funds, right?
Yeah.
Because then the premium won't be there, the high yield won't be there.
Low interest rates cause low volatility. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
My opinion. I'm not a professional. Is that true? Is that true that interest rates are priced into the Black-Scholes model and into the VIX and volatility, or not?
I believe so.
I believe so. All right.
So if that happens, they'll just add GameStops.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
AMC, GameStop, Bed Bath and Beyond, and then we'll get the volatility up again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So question. So you, for sure, you only do YMAX and YMAG. You don't have anything to do with the rest of these funds,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So yeah, and I asked that because there are several questions here. You don't do ulti, right?
No.
Okay. But most of
Do you
these
wanna
are
do
going to be
ulti?
geared
Do I want to?
through those.
Sorry. I think it's being run very well right now, but
Yeah.
the team. I didn't hear.
Good
No, I was
answer.
just saying most of the questions here aren't questions about YMAX
Got
or YMAG.
Yeah.
As I was going through here, so that's why I wanted to just clarify.
But
Just YMAX and YMAG, yeah.
There is a question here, but I don't know. Damien says, will YMAX be a fund of funds for all further YieldMax funds?
Oh, that's a good question.
It depends. It depends on, it has to be, so Ulti will not be part of YMAX.
Okay.
But, with ABNY, the new Airbnb one,
Yeah.
Snowy, GDXY, they all should be, because it should target all the single name
Yeah.
products. It won't have any of the
No inverses.
short, no inverses,
Yeah.
so it should have all of them going forward, but I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say that it's gonna be a perfect blanket statement across the board, so. It depends on the product, but they should have most of them.
And some of these other questions, again, we're talking about like crash and fiat and stuff like that, which I think we've covered those in
Yeah,
our video with Jay today. If you haven't seen
I
it,
will
or
check out
yet.
on the crash situation.
It's great.
But
to-
it's great talking with Chris. It's great talking with someone other than Jay. Not that Jay's not great, because but no, Jay's great, but Chris gives you a different perspective because you're the guy that actually is more hands-on. He's in charge of everything, but you're in charge of YMAX and YMAX
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
So he has a global perspective and you have a specific one. It's been interesting talking to you.
Thank you for your time again, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Um,
This is great.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for your
We'll
support.
end the live stream. We'll
Yeah.
call it a day.
Thank you, Chris. It's
Thank
nice
you.
seeing you.
Thank you guys too.
Yeah.